seconds and counting. We passed T-minus 60. 55 seconds and counting. Neil Armstrong just reported back. It's been a real smooth countdown. We passed the 50-second mark. Power transfer is complete. We're on internal power with the launch vehicle at this time. 40 seconds away from the Apollo 11 liftoff. All the second stage tanks now pressurized. 35 seconds and counting. We are still go with Apollo 11. 30 seconds and counting. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. We have a liftoff, 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Power clear.
Hello and welcome to the Bullpen. As always, I'm James Roy, and not as always with me is Dylan Delgatto, aka Texans County, aka D Delgatto NFL. Dylan, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right, Those are all the places you can find Dylan, the King of Texans Instagram, getting it started on X, bringing some great stuff. If you're not following him, you need to. It's definitely it's up there on the list of Texans accounts to follow on all social media, so make sure you're following him.
Love it.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
let's
Glad to be
talk.
Here.
Yeah, let's talk briefly about like the news that's going on around the Texans, and then mostly we'll focus on roster spots, who's getting them and who's not. Dalton Keene goes on IR. What are your thoughts on that move, and what are your thoughts on the corresponding move of signing Bowden? I'm
not really concerned about Dalton hitting the IL or the IR. Sorry, I'm in baseball mode still. I don't think he was ever going to make the 53-man roster over Andrew Beck or Skro. It's a little confusing to why we immediately flipped around and said, let's sign another fullback. But they're probably wanting a 1, 2, and 3 in training camp, I would assume. So that's kind of my assumption, but I don't think it's a huge loss. I think Dalton was on and off the roster last year. But I mean, Beck was clearly the fullback one, and Beck's blocking ability is pretty much better than any other fullback we have. Maybe Skro-Renick, whatever his name is, but I'm not too concerned. But what about you?
I mean, I agree. I think Houston Streston's put it best on Twitter earlier. It's more of a camp body, and I think you said it well too. Like they want 3, they have 3. If Beck isn't healthy to start the season, then whoever's the best out of Hairston and Bowden will get a spot, and otherwise one of them will probably get sent to the practice squad if they clear waivers. That's about it. So
yeah, and it makes sense. You mentioned Harrison. That man battles injuries all the time, so I guess it adds another person with with Beck and Skro. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, speaking of Skowronek, just real quickly, I know we were going to talk about roster spots later. What are your thoughts on him making the roster? The Texans aren't going to carry 2 fullbacks. They're probably not going to carry more than 6 wide receivers. Where does he fit if he does at all?
I just really don't know, man. That's one of the ones, like you were telling me what we were talking about, and I was like, I just don't know. Like you gotta think that wide receiver is already hard enough to make. And, like, do you keep a wide receiver around for the sole purpose of special teams? If you do, then, like, sure, maybe you carry that 7th wide receiver, or maybe you use Skro as, like, a utility guy, and maybe he's, like, a fullback, tight end, wide receiver, running. I don't know. Like, that's my biggest question is I don't really know where he fits in, but I find it hard to believe they're going to cut a guy who was one of the best special teams players in football last year with a guy who does have some upside in the receiving core. I mean, he wasn't terrible in LA, But I mean, also they got Lonnie Johnson, who's going to stay around, and he was almost a Pro Bowler just off of special teams. So, you know, and Hewitt, like, how many of these special team guys do you keep around? You know, so it'll be interesting to see what they do.
It will be. I can't quite put my finger on it. I've said throughout the offseason that Skoranek had to be special in a lot of ways to earn a roster spot. I don't know, with the injury last week and him being out, I don't know if that was detrimental to his chances of making it. I don't know where I stand on him, but we can talk about that more in a minute. Really quickly, in the Instagram chat, we've got Texans United saying James Roy and Dylan Delgatto collab going crazy. So there we go. We got it.
Hey, people act like this is the first time we've collabed, and we've done a pretty good amount of collabs. But if people like it, they like it.
I know, right? You're like a regular guest on the Bullpen.
Hey,
you're like a series regular,
bro. Let's go.
And then Tom's in the chat on Instagram, like, talk JJ Watt, talk JJ Watt,
bro.
Did you see the picture?
I got a story about JJ to tell after the picture. After we talk about that.
All right, yeah. We can talk about the picture, and then we'll talk about Jimmy Ward, and we'll get into roster stuff. So JJ Watt on Instagram throws up the H in the caption. He's in the new Texans weight room. He knows how to tease the city of Houston. I'll give him that. Yeah. What do you make of it? It's probably nothing, right? That's where I'm at.
I don't make anything of it because he was just in Pittsburgh hanging out with his brother. So he was already probably, you know, out and about. And, you know, D'Amico probably said, hey, you know, come say hello, come work with us. They've told him that he has an open invite to the facilities whenever to practice, you know, to work out, to come hang out, you know, to eat, like whatever. He has an open invite. So, I mean, if the guy just wanted to come to Houston, he wanted to come to Houston, you know.
If he wants to work out, why not work at the best facilities in Houston? Like,
yeah. So I think there's not much to make of it, but again, he is staying in shape in case there's a midseason call. But again, I don't think he wants to necessarily come out of retirement. It would truly be like Daniel Hunter or Will Anderson gets hurt and we need someone, you know, or they're both hurt and we need someone to pair with Barnett, you know. I just don't see it, but who knows?
I mean, I think that depending on how the interior D-line goes, that could also be a possibility, but
I agree.
I'm not high on his possibility of coming back at the moment.
No,
I think there's room for it.
I was maybe my story relates to totally something different than him coming back, but I had some maybe more suspicion around the Charity Classic when D'Amico was talking about and he was talking about, and I was like, okay. And then he kind of shut that down on television that he was not really for it. So we'll see. I don't know. I'd love to see him back. I just don't see it happening, but.
Yeah. All right. So what's your story with JJ Watt? What's
all right. So he announced the Charity Classic. During his Ring of Honor thing, he mentioned it. And I had tagged in my story when tickets went out. I was like, get your tickets, like go. And he had shared my story. So then when someone shares your story on Instagram, you're now in their DMs, and you can message them, and they're gonna see. Well, if they open it, they're gonna see it. But you're no longer in their request. You know.
Yeah.
So. He messaged me like he shared my story silent. He tweeted out a couple days before the Classic a picture of a hat like this on his lap. Not this hat, but it was like sitting like this on his lap. And someone was like, "Yo, is that gonna be for sale?" And he goes, "Oh, it's a players only hat. But since you were the first one to ask, I got you one." And then he tweeted out another card. I was like, "Bro, come on, I want one of those." So I DM'd him a screenshot. And I was like, "Hey, if you have any extras, I'll make whatever kind of donation you want. I want one." And he was like, "All right, bro." And he responded. I was surprised he even responded. He was like, "Talk to me after the Classic. We'll see what happens." So I waited some time in like May. The Classic was in May. About a month ago, I hit him up. And I was like, "Hey, do you happen to have an extra?" He goes, "Ha, you got me. I have a couple extra. Send me your address. I'll have my assistant send it." The guy sent it.
There you go.
The guy sent it. And I got like a package from an address that said Justin James with his Arizona address on it. It was nuts. It was crazy. I was like, what the heck just happened? And now I just feel like I'm best friends with JJ Watt. But but
Texans County with the inside scoop.
I'm 100% gonna send him that wedding invite.
Oh yeah, 100%. You got it.
But I just think it's cool that like he's just a man of the fans. And when we talk about JJ, he's everything Houston's ever been, and he resembles it well. But just little things like that he does for fans, like, not many players are going to do something like that. So just thought that was a cool story since we're talking about Mr. Watt over here.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely relevant. Great story too. I mean, I can't help but be a little bit jealous because I'd love to send JJ Watt a message and get a hat. That'd be great.
I want something from Cal McNair now after that Reddit feed. Come on,
dude. No, I know, right?
Who was it on Texans Twitter? I think it was VT got one, and I was like, "What the heck?" He got that big chain. I was like, "Dude, what?"
That's I need to be at the next AMA, and I just need to have a list. And Arian Foster signed. I don't know. I just think of the most outlandish thing that they could possibly have.
Who knows? But I just thought that was cool. But yeah, man, let's talk about Jimmy Ward.
Let's do it. Well, actually, before that, I would have, if I had been in the Reddit AMA yesterday, I thought about going to it. I didn't. The question I would have asked is, when are we getting Arian Foster into the Ring of Honor?
I saw some people asking that, and that was not a question that was answered. I don't know if him and the Texans are on the best term. I don't know. I know.
No, Arian Foster.
He'd love to be in the Ring of Honor, but I don't know.
He's waiting on the Texans. Someone tweeted at him and said, "Hey, you deserve to be in the Ring of Honor," and he replied with like, "Yeah, I'd love to do it. I'm waiting on the Texans to reach out." So
yeah, all I know is Lovie Smith should be in there next after the generational trade.
I'm all for the statue. I don't know about the Ring of Honor. I think that's a bit much.
Ring of Honor.
Not the ring. That's sacred. Come on.
Yeah. Come on.
But and also a reminder, our fans are clamoring for a round table panel discussing who should be in the Ring of Honor.
Hey, I'm down. Let's do it. Let's do it on a Monday or a Sunday night.
Let's do it. Me, you, Tom, and Garrett, aka Houston Stressens. We'll get all of the Texans social media in there, and we'll hash it out. Here. Dude, let's do it.
If he's down.
Let's do it.
Maybe see if Pat can get in. I can text them both. We'll see. Make it a big Texans party.
There's some heavy hitters in Texan social media. Why not?
There is. We'll see.
All right. So we've got Jimmy Ward for another year. Now, I didn't quite get the details on it. You might know more about it than I do. The way it sounded with the language they used is that they added another year to his contract. Did they add any money to it? And how do you feel about the extra year in general?
I don't remember his initial contract value, but I know that he's getting about $8 million guaranteed next season.
Okay, so sweet. How do you feel about it?
I think it's good. My only concern is his health. The guy's always struggled with health in his career. So if he's healthy, it's a great move. I personally would have waited till like week 10 or 11 to do that. Just getting him in a better place where like, okay, he's played 10 games this year, or he's only played 1 game this year, because then you have, I think in that moment you say, well, hey bro, you've only played 4 games. We'll give you $8 million, but it's not going to be guaranteed. It'll be guaranteed if you play 12 games, or like you have that like incentive then, but I think he's critical to the team. And I agree with you. I like him a lot. So
healthy Jimmy Ward is great for this defense. You've seen his leadership on the field. The team suffers when he's not there, and that's everyone's number one qualm. I mean, and I made a video recently where as many issues as I've had with the Texans' safety position over the past year or two, the only one that's really on my mind going into this season, especially with the way Jalen Petrie performed this past week against the Giants, Jalen Petrie was on one. My big concern is Jimmy Ward's health. That's if he stays healthy, this secondary could very easily be one of the best, if not the best in the league. It'll be a total turnaround from last season, where we had one of the top run defenses and just couldn't seem to stop teams with awful quarterbacks from throwing for 300 plus yards. So yeah, right. I mean, I'm pretty hype about that contract. I can't lie about it. I think it's good to have him back, but I agree with your concerns. So
yeah, we'll see, but it's good to have that level of talent as a mentor anyway, no matter what. So
100%. Do you think we might get something similar like with Stephon Diggs, and probably more along the timeline you're talking about, or how do you feel about his situation being on 1 year?
I don't know. I don't think he's going to be back. I think they're hoping think he's hoping. I think the team is hoping that him being a mentor to these younger guys like Hutch and Mechie, that maybe that he can be a mentor to them, and that they. Sorry, I'm like all over the place. That he can be a mentor that they can take his place, but I just don't know. I don't know if they want him back. I think they would, but I don't know if they want to pay him what he wants to be paid. That makes sense.
If the money. Oh, geez, there goes Dylan. We'll see if he can get back in, but there he is. We're gonna pop him back in. What happened? Did you back out?
I don't know. My phone just refreshed.
Oh, well, I was just about to start replying to your point. I think that, like, week 12, if Stephon Diggs is willing to accept the right amount of money, if the Texans don't feel good about the opportunity or what Mechie presents going into this next season, then I'd say that they could add another year and see if they can extend him for a year or two. But if they feel like what they've got in Mechie, if Mechie's coming into fruition, then they'd probably want him to take a significant pay cut to stay. And I don't know if he's willing to do that, especially if the Texans do what we know they can do this year. I mean, if Diggs literally just came here to chase a ring and the Texans go and do it this year, then like he has no need to take a discount to stay here unless he just really loves it here. So it'd be tough to see. But we'll move into the roster discussion. And did you have one more point to make on that?
No, you're good. You got it, bro.
All right. Let's do it. So I'm just going to go position by position, and I just want to get your feel for it. We had a comment in the Instagram chat about Dameon Pierce. So we'll start with the running back position. It's one of the toughest ones. I mean, so to be honest with you, Houston Stresson's made like a roster prediction, and I used that same software, and I was like, okay, this is an easy cut. I'll cut down here. I want to keep 6 here, 7 here. And like, I got to the end of it and I was like, oh man, I'm only at like 59, 61. I was sitting like in that area. And then I started having to make like, this is a player I don't want to cut, but like, this is the right decision based off what's left. So this is one of those positions where I think is honestly one of the easier ones, but it's still a difficult choice. So what are your feelings on Dameon Pierce's chances of making the roster? We'll start there.
I don't know. I don't think he's a right fit for this scheme. So I don't think he should make the roster. But then part of me is like, oh man, his rookie year. And if we can get that, then we might be in a really good. I just don't see him fitting in the scheme. And I think he doesn't have much trade value. I think he needs to be traded for a 7th, or
I think that works.
I don't know. I like Akers a lot. I think Jawar Jordan has potential. There's always a running back that's going to surprise you. I mean, look at British Brooks. So I don't see the huge benefit right now in this moment to keep Dameon Pierce. Now, if he goes out and he puts up a crazy game Sunday, then I'll retable this conversation and say, you know what? I'm in. But right now in this moment, Cam Akers is my RB2.
There's part of me that like I don't want to be reactionary, and I look back at the discussions that happened around John Mechie over 4 targets and 2 receptions. There's people calling for his roster spot based off of that. There's a bit of an overreaction. I had that discussion because it was what was happening, but I tried to hold myself back from acting too quickly on that. We're looking at 8 total carries, and obviously it's not impressive. I think his longest is 3. He had a negative carry.
Yeah.
Most of them were 1 or 2 yards. I mean, it's not the most impressive. He's not seeing the holes the way he needs to for the scheme per the preseason, but that's not to say, I don't know, with as highly as the Texans talked about him this offseason, I think that D'Amico and Nick probably have faith that he can turn it around. And I don't know how to put it. I don't want to look at like what could, he's probably RB3 right now, right? So, you can either decide he's not worth it and you want to keep the potential of Jawar Jordan or British Brooks, and I think Dario Gumbawale, the more I think about it, stays on the roster based off his special teams value.
Dari's staying. The kicker,
100%.
The kicker potential is worth it enough. Also, I'm not gonna lie, man. I don't know if I'm a coach, I don't know what potential I see in Damian in this scheme.
Yeah.
What did he do last year?
It's tough. I don't know. We don't have anything to go on except for his rookie year. And it could be another issue of Steve Slayton. It could be another Steve Slayton situation.
My biggest issue, I love him, but the guy would be good if he would see the open lane. You can't teach vision. And he doesn't have it. He just runs to the first person he sees, and that's not our scheme. Our scheme is based off of good blocks. That's why Mixon's going to thrive here. That's why Devin Singletary had a career year here, arguably. Like, we can't have a guy who's just going to run down a defender. That's why I really didn't want Derrick Henry. He sees the lanes, but he still has that same vibe as DP. I'm team get a pick, or maybe there's a linebacker that's going to be cut from a team and you can do a swap. That's
something that I brought up was the possibility of using Dameon Pierce as trade bait to fix the linebacker depth situation. If you're gonna need anything, you might as well fix a problem that you're having if you see a guy you like.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I mean, you're gonna have some guys you probably claim from waivers after roster cuts, and someone like Neville Hewitt might be at risk, or Jake Hansen or whoever. Like, a linebacker is gonna be a risk if you see one you like. So maybe you can trade Pierce for a guy that you want to claim and just don't have to worry about claiming him. You just do a swap. Someone might go down with an injury this week, and someone might need an RB2 and they might want Dameon Pierce. Who knows? You never know. But I think running back room is weird. I think wide receivers is a conversation. I don't even know what you even have with that conversation. We got like 8 minutes left, and I don't even know how we approach wide receivers. But
I think wide receivers is simple in a way. I mean, realistically, when you look at the wide receiver room, it's this: are they keeping 6 or 7? Right. The two big questions are that, and then are they cutting Noah Brown or Robert Woods? That's going to be the big question, because the way I view it is you're keeping 6 and you're cutting Ben Skoranek, or you're keeping 7 and you're keeping Ben Skoranek. The question is who is. I mean, I view Robert Woods, the more I've watched the offseason, the more I view Robert Woods as being a Texan this season. I think they really like him. I think he provides a lot of value.
He would have been cut a long time ago.
I think that Noah Brown starts the season on physically unable to perform or stashed away, and just in case someone goes down injured. And then if he was to return, I don't know if they cut someone to keep him on the roster, honest.
I think it's harder. You got the 4 guarantees. Nico, Diggs, Tank, Hutch. There's no way Hutch is getting cut. There's not a single world with the way D'Amico talks about him. He's not getting cut.
I don't think there's a world where Mechie gets cut either.
He's a lock. I don't think so either. So that's 5. And then the question is Steven Sims. I wouldn't cut him. The guy has playmaking ability, and the guy is going to be really good in this kick rotation. And this new
as much as I like him for kick return, I think that Tank Dell can do that. And I know people don't like to hear that because of his injury last year, but I think that if you're maximizing roster versatility, you carry 6 and you keep Tank Dell at returning kicks. That's it. I don't know.
I think the Texans have a lot of hard decisions. I would keep Woods over Brown for the veteran presence, but Noah Brown had such a good year last year that I don't want to let him go. I would feel more comfortable trading Mechie in some regard because of his drop issues. But I think Mechie has wide receiver 3 potential, and I don't want to let that go. And CJ loves him. So it's just hard. I'm glad I'm not Nick Caserio right now.
Yeah, it's a tough decision, but I think that at the end of the day, it's either Robert Woods or Noah Brown, in my opinion. I don't know. I think it's simple, but it's still tough. Like, I liked what Noah Brown provided last year. I thought that he was a really good threat. I thought as long as he wasn't called upon to be the wide receiver 1, that he was serviceable, and he had some pretty big games. but I thought that when the light shined too bright, he wasn't ready for it. Robert Woods wasn't able to step up and be wide receiver one either. He also was injured a couple games, just like Noah Brown. So then do you either test the waters on Mechie being able to step into that role if it happens, or do you go with what you know, which is as soon as the other wide receivers go down, we have nothing?
Yeah, I think you have to keep one of those guys at least around for the depth, but you got to think that either Woods or Brown has trade value.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think so. At least like a 6th or 7th round pick,
5th or 6th for a guy like Robert Woods.
I think a 6th or 7th. I mean, if they know that there's a possibility you cut him, the best you get is a 6th or 7th.
Sure.
Around cuts. If you wanted to get value out of him, you trade him earlier in the offseason.
Yeah. So I don't know. Wide receivers are hard. We'll see what they do. I think, but like every other position, I don't feel it was hard to question who's gonna make it. You know what I mean? Like maybe the cornerbacks, but every other position, like
defensively, my biggest question comes around, Dylan Horton and Solomon Byrd are two guys I really like as edges, but can they make this roster is a question that I have. And then I also, on the linebacker depth, as much as it needs help, I do really like Max Tooley, but can Max Tooley, crack his way onto the roster? Those are the big questions I have defensively. I don't know. What do you think about those particular prospects?
I like Marcus Harris a lot. I think the guy's going to be a stud. You didn't mention him, but he was our 6th round pick or whatever his name, I think that's his name, Marcus Harris. I like him a lot.
6th or 7th. Marcus Harris, defensive tackle out of Auburn. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be really good, but again, like you said, I don't know. Like defense, Tooley could easily see himself on the roster and maybe even be a sleeper. But then like I don't know if Horton has a spot here. But again, like it's really hard to judge the defense because a lot of those guys play like the 4th quarter, and preseason games aren't that fun to watch after the 3rd quarter, really after the 2nd quarter. So it's hard to judge because these guys are playing against 4 strings. So sure, you can dominate at a 4th string, but can you do that against the 2nd string?
The deeper problem is that in a lot of these games, you're playing against 4th strings and you're not dominating, which is an issue.
We were struggling. The moment our starters came out, we were struggling. So I have concerns there. I have concerns about linebacker. I have concerns about backup corners. But at the end of the day, right now, I'm like trusting that they know what they're doing. Yeah.
I mean, at linebacker, it's realistically, are you sticking with guys that that are known commodities on special teams, like in Neville Hewitt and Jake Hansen, or are you keeping Jamal Hill and Max Tooley to be your new special teams guys with one of the previous guys? And I don't know
what you do. I would keep Hewitt around.
I think Hewitt has a spot. I don't think he's a cut candidate.
No, I think he's around. Hansen could be cut for sure. I don't know. I think the trade deadline we could see a linebacker come to Houston. To pair with the 2 that we really have. I just don't know if 2022 Toa is gonna be ready to be a full-time starter this year. We'll see. I don't know.
I think the pass rush will help him out because his biggest issue is he's a liability in coverage. And if the pass rush is there, he's not going to be called upon to cover for very long.
For sure.
So it says we have a comment that says Dylan Horton's on the exempt list, so he probably won't even count towards the roster anyways. So
forgot about that.
So he might come back later in the season, or that might also be a case where whenever he's off of that list, the Texans could have to decide between cutting him or bringing him in to the roster.
So would be cut, but I mean, who knows? It all depends. You might get hit with an injury bug right when he is ready to come back and he gets a roster spot. It's just we live in an injury-prone team world. So
100%. Well, I mean, on that note, I know that you've got to go, so I'll kind of bring this thing to a close.
Yeah.
If you're interested in more discussions on the final roster on Cut Down Day, I'll be on the Bleacher Report app in the Texans tab talking about the final roster and my impressions, who made it, who I thought was going to make it, who made it that I didn't think was going to make it, and all that. So if that's what you're into, I'll have more information out on that on socials to lock in on that. Once again, you can find Dylan at Dylan D Delgatto NFL on X. or you can find him at Texans County on Instagram. I mean, both great follows. If you're on either one of those platforms and you're looking for Texans content, you probably already follow him. So telling you to follow him is like telling you to breathe as a Texans fan, probably. Hey, whoa, cutting in and out. My goodness. And I
don't know what's happening.
am James Roy, and you find me at, I don't know what's happening either, but I'm okay with it. I'm going to try and press through it. I'm at James Roy NFL on Twitter and at N1 Texans fan on Instagram. You can find me at either one of those. If you're watching this right now, you know, that's on YouTube, and you can listen to it tomorrow on Spotify and Apple Music. If you are listening to it and you'd rather see our beautiful faces, most of Dylan's, he's been in and out the whole episode. Then you can watch it on YouTube, and you can use my Twitter handle is the same as the channel handle for YouTube. I don't know, man. You're just bouncing in and out. Maybe it's your Wi-Fi. It says you got great Wi-Fi on my end, so I don't know.
It's probably because I'm in a car, but who knows?
Probably. But also, our first mobile episode of the Bullpen, we were moving through the city of Houston the whole time.
That's the way to do it.
What an accomplishment, man! Fun fact: Houston, first word and last word set on the moon. There you go. Don't say I never learned you anything. Thanks for tuning in. Actually, 1 minute. I got one more plug. Sorry, Don. I don't mean to hold you.
You're good, bro.
Dylan joined the Locker League. It's the Bolt on Locker, this new fantasy app. We have the Bullpen League, and this is a new way to play fantasy. It's not like your average draft your players and set your lineups kind of thing. It's more like where's real-time sports prediction trivia. That's what it's more like. And I think it's pretty easy. You can join at any point in the season and still have just as good a chance at winning the grand prize. There'll be giveaways. The Lockers partner with Fanatics, so there's opportunities to get Texans memorabilia if you're a member of the group. It starts it's $25, and Lockers matching up to $50 your deposits into the app. So make sure that you're in for that if you are interested in more ways to watch football and make money off of it. And Dylan, I don't know what's going on with you, but I'm going to go ahead and bring it to a close. As always, stay classy, Houston, and Vamos Texans. Signing off, the Bullpen.